April 9th, 1865, a day that marked the end of one of the bloodiest wars in American history, the American Civil War. A war that tore a nation apart, brother against brother. But what if it didn't end as we know it? What if the Confederacy won? Welcome back to TimeShift, where we dive deep into history's most pivotal moments and explore the what-ifs that could have rewritten our world. Today, we're venturing into an alternate reality where the South emerged victorious and changed the fate of not just the United States, but the entire world. Before we dive into this alternate reality, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here at TimeShift, we explore the biggest what-ifs in history. From the assassination of Abraham Lincoln to the question of a world without 9/11, we've got plenty of mind-bending content to keep you thinking. So let's jump right in. Our journey starts with a single battle, a pivotal moment where the tides turn in favor of the Confederacy. In our timeline, General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse marked the beginning of the end for the Confederacy. But in this alternate timeline, Lee's army, bolstered by fresh troops and unexpected support from foreign allies like Britain and France, manages to break through Union lines. A decisive battle, a shocking victory. The North is forced to the negotiation table. Suddenly, the landscape of war changes. The Union, unable to sustain its military efforts and with waning public support, agrees to an armistice. The Confederacy gains its independence, and the United States, as we know it, splits in two. The South becomes a nation of its own, its identity no longer tied to the United States, but to the Confederate States of America. But what does a Confederate victory mean for the social and economic structure of the Americas? One of the biggest consequences is, well, the continued existence of slavery. The Confederacy's economy is deeply rooted in the plantation system, relying on the labor of enslaved people to produce cotton, tobacco, and other cash crops. In our reality, the Emancipation Proclamation and the Union's victory ended this brutal institution. But in this alternate timeline, slavery persists. This new nation, built on the foundation of slavery, enters a dangerous political dance with global powers. While many European countries officially oppose slavery, they are still economically dependent on the cotton trade. This creates an uneasy alliance, one built on the profits of human labor and the complex geopolitics of the 19th century. The Confederacy grows economically strong, trading its goods with Britain, France, and other nations, all while maintaining its peculiar institution. But how long can this system last? Some argue that economic pressure from the international community would eventually force the Confederacy to end slavery. Others believe that without the moral and political pressure from the Union, the Confederacy might have continued this practice well into the 20th century. So what happens to the United States, or what's left of it? With the South gone, the Union becomes a smaller but more unified nation. But tensions remain high between the two Americas. The Union, embarrassed by its defeat, maintains a policy of isolation from the South. Border skirmishes are frequent, and distrust between the two nations lingers like an open wound. The Confederacy, proud of its victory, begins to expand westward, claiming territories that were once part of the Union. Meanwhile, the Union, desperate to counterbalance the growing power of the South, pushes further into the West as well, creating a race for land and resources that threatens to spark yet another conflict. Imagine it, two Americas, constantly on the brink of war, each trying to assert its dominance over the other. But let's take a step back. What if the Confederacy's victory wasn't just a matter of military strategy and luck? What if it was part of a greater conspiracy? Some theorists speculate that powerful, unseen forces worked behind the scenes to ensure the South's victory. Who would benefit from a divided America? Could secret societies, wealthy European elites, or even a rogue faction within the Union itself have pulled the strings? Imagine this. The South's victory is orchestrated by a coalition of global elites who see the division of America as a way to maintain control over the global economy. A unified America, they argue, is too powerful, too unpredictable. By keeping the country divided, they maintain their grip on the cotton trade, the gold reserves, and the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere. Could it be that the Civil War wasn't just about states' rights and slavery, but part of a larger scheme to control the fate of a nation? And what would this mean for the future of democracy, freedom, and power in the modern world? Now let's step back and look at the global picture. In our timeline, the United States emerged from the Civil War as a united and powerful nation, eventually becoming a global superpower. But in this alternate reality, the world's balance of power looks very different. With two weaker Americas, global powers like Britain, France, and even Germany have more influence over world affairs. The Confederate States of America, focused on its own expansion and maintaining its way of life, may have avoided global conflicts like World War I. And the Union, weakened by years of division and internal strife, might have stayed out of global politics altogether. Imagine a world where the First World War is a European affair, with little to no American involvement. The Great War might have ended differently, shaping a very different 20th century. And what about the rest of the world? In our timeline, the United States played a critical role in ending European colonialism in the 20th century. But without a strong America, European empires might have held on to their colonies for much longer. The Confederate States, seeking allies and resources, might have aligned itself with Britain and France, helping to maintain their colonial rule across Africa and Asia. Meanwhile, the Union, eager to expand its influence and counterbalance the Confederacy, might have engaged in its own imperial adventures, perhaps annexing parts of Latin America or seeking influence in the Pacific. A world with two Americas could have led to even more competition for global dominance and resources. So, what does all of this mean for the world we live in today? A divided America would have changed everything: our politics, our economy, and our social fabric. The internet, the space race, the fight for civil rights, all of these would have played out differently in a world where the Confederacy emerged victorious. Would the Union and Confederacy have reconciled, or would they remain bitter rivals? Would slavery have continued, or would it have ended through international pressure? And how would the world's balance of power have shifted in the face of two Americas struggling for dominance? These are the questions that haunt the alternate reality of a world where the South won the Civil War. Thank you for joining us on this journey into an alternate history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into a world that could have been, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos exploring history's biggest what-ifs. From the moon landing to Pearl Harbor, we're here to explore the moments that could have changed our world forever. Let us know in the comments, what do you think would have happened if the Confederacy had won? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of TimeShift.